A young woman sends a text saying she's almost home. Her car arrives, she doesn't. That is the entire mystery of Emily Carter, and it is one of the most unsettling disappearance cases in recent American memory. Not because of what happened, but because of what we simply cannot explain. Emily was 22 years old. She lived in a small town, kind where people know their neighbors, where late-night drives are routine, where nothing bad is supposed to happen on a quiet Thursday. She had spent the evening with a friend. She texted her mother before leaving. That message was normal. Casual, the kind of text millions of people send every single night without thinking twice. Then, at 11:47 p.m., one final message. I'm almost home. After that, silence. Her phone stopped receiving calls. Location services went dark. And yet traffic cameras confirmed her car was still moving for several more minutes after that last text. Then it stopped appearing in any system at all. No footage, no pings, nothing. The next morning, her car was found parked on the shoulder of a rural highway. Doors locked, keys inside, engine cold. No broken glass, no signs of a struggle, no witnesses. Just a car sitting quietly on the side of the road, as if someone had parked it deliberately and walked away. But Emily Carter was not there. Search teams spent weeks covering forests, riverbanks, and every road within miles. Her phone was recovered inside the vehicle, still displaying that last message. Investigators found no evidence of foul play, no evidence of an accident, and no explanation for the gap between the moment she said she was almost home and the moment she ceased to exist in any traceable way. Cases like Emily's force us to confront something deeply uncomfortable. We live in an era of near-total digital surveillance. Our phones track us. Cameras watch our roads. Our cars leave data trails. We have built a world where disappearing should be almost impossible. And yet sometimes, people vanish completely. In the middle of ordinary nights, on familiar roads, just minutes from safety. This case is not just a tragedy. It is a puzzle. Puzzle that touches on how we investigate disappearances, how our surveillance systems have critical blind spots, and how the final moments before someone goes missing can be both the most documented and the most mysterious part of the entire story. Over the course of this video, we are going to look closely at what investigators actually found, what the evidence actually tells us, where the gaps in the timeline appear, and what cases like Emily's reveal about the limits of modern forensic investigation. Because the answer to what happened that night may not be hidden in the forest or the river. It may be hidden in those few silent minutes between a text message and a cold engine. Those few minutes are where investigators always return. Not because they expect to find something new, not if, but because they cannot explain what is already there. When forensic teams processed Emily's vehicle, they followed standard protocol. They checked the doors, the windows, the trunk, the undercarriage. They dusted for prints, swabbed for DNA, photographed every surface. And what they found was perfectly ordinary. Her bag was in the passenger seat. Her coffee cup was in the holder. Her phone was face up on the center console, screen still lit with that last message. Everything was exactly where it should be, which is precisely what made it so unsettling. A scene that looks undisturbed is not the same as a scene that is undisturbed. This is one of the first things forensic investigators learn. Absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. The lack of a struggle does not mean there was no struggle. It may mean the struggle happened somewhere else, or that whatever occurred happened too quickly to leave a trace. Traffic camera data placed her car on that rural stretch of highway at 11:49 p.m. The engine was cold by the time officers arrived the following morning, meaning it had been off for hours. That 2-minute window between her last text and the final camera sighting is the entire known timeline. 2 minutes. In investigative terms, that is almost nothing to work with. Cell tower data confirmed. Her phone never moved after that point. It stayed in the car. And that single detail shifts the entire frame of the investigation, because it tells us that whatever happened to Emily happened outside that vehicle. She either left it or she was taken from it. But the locked doors complicate both possibilities. Modern vehicles can be locked from the outside with a key fob. That is not unusual, but it raises a question investigators have never been able to fully answer. Who locked the car and why? If Emily left on her own, locking the car behind her suggests a level of deliberate calm that does not fit a distress scenario. If someone else locked it, they had access to her keys, which were found inside. This is the kind of logical loop that cold cases live inside. Every answer generates a harder question. Every piece of physical evidence points in two directions at once. Camera face, give change. What Emily's case illustrates is a gap that exists in nearly every missing persons investigation. The gap between what technology can record and what it can actually explain. Cameras can track a car, towers can ping a phone, but neither can tell you what happened in the space between a moving vehicle and a locked, empty one. That space, those final unrecorded moments, is where the truth is buried. And that is precisely what makes cases like Emily's so difficult for investigators to close. The evidence doesn't disappear. It just stops, and a sudden stop is not the same as an answer. When detectives work a missing persons case, they follow a chain. Every link matters. A text message, a camera timestamp, a cell tower ping. Each one narrows the window of what could have happened. But when that chain ends abruptly, with no break, no disruption, no final anomaly to point toward, investigators are left holding a timeline that simply runs out. Not a thread that was cut. A thread that ended mid-sentence. In Emily's case, the physical scene offered almost nothing to work with. Locked doors suggest she didn't leave in a panic. No broken glass means no forced entry from outside. A cold engine means the car had been sitting for hours before it was found. These details don't point toward an answer. They systematically eliminate the most obvious ones. And that process of elimination, while essential, can also be quietly devastating. Every theory ruled out is another door closed in a hallway that keeps getting shorter. Investigators often talk about the difference between absence of evidence and evidence of absence. It sounds like a technicality, but it matters enormously. Finding nothing at a scene doesn't mean nothing happened. It means whatever happened left no recoverable trace. Or that distinction shapes everything about how a case is pursued, how long resources are allocated, and how families are told to interpret silence. There is also a psychological dimension that rarely gets discussed. The people closest to Emily, her mother, her friends, received a final message that felt like reassurance. Almost home. Those two words were meant to close a loop. Instead, they became the last data point in an open wound. VTOAI, give chin. Investigators understand that the emotional weight carried by a final communication can distort memory, cloud recollection, and make witness interviews harder to navigate. Everyone who loved Emily filtered what they remembered through that message. What forensic analysts and missing persons specialists consistently find in cases like this is that the most important moment is almost never the last recorded one. It's the unrecorded moment, just after. The 30 seconds, the 2 minutes, the brief window where a decision was made, or an encounter occurred, or something shifted. And no device was watching. Technology has given investigators extraordinary reach. But reach is not the same as resolution. A camera can confirm a car was moving. It cannot confirm who was driving. A cell tower can confirm a phone was active. It cannot confirm the person holding it was safe. The evidence in Emily Carter's case is not incomplete because something failed. It's incomplete because the systems we rely on were never designed to capture what happens between the moments they measure. And that is the quiet truth at the center of cases like this one. We live in an era of extraordinary surveillance. Traffic cameras, cell towers, GPS pings, digital timestamps. We have built a world that tracks nearly everything. And yet, Emily Carter walked out of that world in under 4 minutes, and none of those systems caught it. That is not a failure of technology. It is a reminder of what technology was actually built to do. It was built to move data, to route signals, to log transactions. It was not built to watch over a 22-year-old woman driving home on a Thursday night. That was never its purpose, and we should stop assuming it was. What investigators face in cases like Emily's is not a solvable puzzle with a missing piece. It is a structural gap. The moments that matter most, the final exchange between a person and whatever happened to them, almost never fall inside a camera frame or a data log. They fall in the space between. This is why witness accounts still matter. Why canvassing still matters. Why the people who knew the victim, who knew the roads, who knew the routines, are still the most valuable resource any investigation has. Human memory is flawed and inconsistent, but it reaches into places that no algorithm can. Emily's case remains officially open. Her family has continued to push for answers. Investigators have not closed the door on new evidence. And the truth is that in missing persons cases, resolution sometimes comes years later. From a single conversation, a detail someone finally decides to share, a connection no one made at the time. If there is one thing to take away from everything we have covered today, it is this. The absence of evidence is not the same as the absence of an answer. Emily Carter's disappearance has not been explained. But unexplained is not the same as unexplainable. Somewhere in the sequence of events between that last message and that cold engine, something happened. And somewhere, someone may know what it was. Gevichin. If you have any information related to the disappearance of Emily Carter, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Adults maintains an active tip line, and local law enforcement in her case continues to accept new leads. And if this case or cases like it matter to you, share this video. Not for the algorithm. Because awareness is still one of the most powerful investigative tools we have. Someone watching this right now might be the connection that changes everything. Cases go cold. They also get solved. Keep paying attention.